We will be recording this today and posting it at a later time on Joseph's YouTube page, and I'll share some more information about that later.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's 8:02. I'm sure we might still have a few people join, but I'd like to get started. Welcome. My name is Jamie Kirshner. We're gathered here virtually today to honor and celebrate the remarkable life of my beloved uncle, Joseph Mark. Thank you all for taking the time to be here and share in this moment. We've designed this time to be a warm, intimate space where we can all remember Joseph, share the joy he brought into our lives, celebrate him on his 70th birthday, and offer comfort to one another. The format's going to be simple. We have several individuals lined up to share stories and memories. Following the speakers, we'll have a short video, and then we'll open the floor up to anybody else who feels moved to share. Uh, all are welcome to use the chat as well if you would like to share there. We hope you feel comfortable participating whatever way feels right for you. Your presence means the world to my family. Let us begin by celebrating the man we all love so dearly. I'd like to introduce Jeff Scott.
Thank you. Uh, I guess I'm very excuse me. I'm already pretty choked up about this, and I talked to my sister earlier today about what she was going to talk about, um, and I did take some notes when when uh, when I was young. I told my mother that I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a musician, and she turned and said, "You have to pick one or the other because you can't do both." And so when the the life that we led after I met Joseph was about kind of growing up together. And I have to tell you uh, some of the early stories just because, people ask about that, where we met and how we got along in those early days. And uh, I didn't meet him before I saw him. And Chip Kinman and I had a band with his brother Tony, and we went to see them at UCSD at Mandeville, not the auditorium, but the student lounge. And Joseph was in a David Bowie tribute band, so I was, I think, 17. He was about a year and a half older than me, and he was. I don't remember anybody else. I don't remember anybody else in the band. I mean, he was, he was, he was radiant. He had um, he had that sort of Irish punk energy at the time. He was um, he was kind of aggressive, but not particularly angry like other members of our band at the time. Um, but we spoke to him, and he joined, and we ended up, those early days getting to know him, rehearsing, and he was really a musician. I mean, I was a faker, but he actually had pretty serious musical talent, and so he did. I watched him in action with the other fellows in the band, and I remember him. Uh, there was something that kept sounding wrong, and he couldn't figure out what was wrong, and they thought they were blaming it on me. Jeff, you're singing the wrong note. And then he asked the bass player, well, what note are you playing? And he said this one, and Joseph said, you realize that the note you're playing is a half step away from what Jeff is trying to sing. And that's when I knew he was a stand-up guy. So anyway, we practiced in the hills above Carlsbad in this garage on this in this big squash farm. But then, it sort of becomes a blur because we were playing in San Diego bands and we were going up to San Francisco. Joseph took off to go back to Europe. He was the most worldly person I knew at the time. We sort of ordered him back from wherever he was in Europe, and then got him to play at the opening of the famous punk club in San Francisco called the Mabuhay Gardens. And thank you, Gordon. That's where that's where it all started in the San Francisco punk scene. We were using my PA, and Joseph was really the first drummer. And I remember his version of Wipeout by the Safaris really tore the roof off the place. People were going nuts for that. So then we split up, and the band split up, and we went on to other things. And I'm going to hold up a couple of pictures here because Joseph was an all-around musician and played all the instruments on this record that we produced. So that's him smoking with a dollar bill pinned to his shirt. And there's me. So see, I was the good-looking guy. I was the cute one in the band. So, I got all the chicks. So, and he went on to play several roles in the different bands that we were in. He would play drums, bass, guitar. And then we moved to San Francisco. We lived in a basement at Post and Hyde, one of the worst areas of the Tenderloin. And we were starving musicians. I should reel back a little bit because during this time when we were in San Diego, we were actually working also. We had day jobs, and we were working for all places, we were working at the San Onofre nuclear power plant. And, he was in purchasing and procurement, and I was in the radiation waste building, which explains a lot about my later life. But, so we were working all this time. He always seemed to have more interesting jobs than me. But anyway, we got up to San Francisco, and then this photographer that loved us brought his girlfriend to see us. And that is a decision he probably regretted later because that was Amy Wallace. And within a month or so, we moved from the dreaded Tenderloin into the Arch Street house. And we call it the Arch Street house, but it was really kind of a mansion. It was 4 stories, beautiful architecture, North Berkeley near the Rose Gardens. And I got a girlfriend. Joseph got a girlfriend, and it was a lot of fun. And can't go into the details because obviously there was a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which we need not go into the details of. But just to sort of, finish this off, Joseph and I, even after those early years, we split off and maintained a lifelong friendship. We had some estrangements in the late 80s and 90s, but at his wedding, I was the best man. He officiated at my first wedding, and I have apologized to him several times over the decades for being the worst best man ever. And because I didn't show up the night before. I don't even think I wore a suit. I was the product of poor manners and poor breeding. So I didn't really get any good advice on what best men are supposed to do. And I kind of, I didn't spoil the day, but I do remember Joseph, the stand-up guy that he is, telling me later that the famous actor Tony Randall was there, who was in a wheelchair and looked over at me when I was pretending to be wading into the water drunken at his wedding day. And Tony said, he must be a very good friend. So I got away with a, a lot of stuff, and he stood by me, and I stood by him. I don't really have time to go into everything else, the London years and all the other weird fun stuff that we were able to do. I will say one thing about London, that when we got there, he rented mopeds, and some of my favorite memories of being in London are being on those mopeds at night on those roundabouts. And he was always quite a bit edgier than me for getting out, being bold, living on the edge. And I'd like to conclude with that just by saying he's most remarkable person I've known in my life. So would somebody else like to speak? We've got next in line is Andreas. So Andreas, would you like to, are you on the call?
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
So, this is nice memories. My name is Andreas. I'm the nephew of Joseph. I'm the son of Arne, who's the brother of Bodil. And I also have some siblings on this call, and some cousins from the Norwegian family. And we met Joseph, some of us as babies, I guess, also for the first time during the 94 Olympic Games in Lillehammer. And he learned to speak some Norwegian there to be able to talk to us, and also to our grandmother, his Bodil's. And then maybe it was our first real meeting with America and American culture. So he was your representative to there. Do you hear me? Yeah, someone wrote mic is blocked. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah,
I couldn't sign on to the computer. I'll keep going, holding my phone. Maybe that's a better audio. Get a thumbs up. Good. Yeah. So it's quite the year, losing both Bodil, Lisa, and Joseph in such short time to different causes. Very sad. We also spoke to Joseph right before. He was looking forward to going to see Jeff. It was one of his planned trips now in October. So we lived through that. Talked to yeah. Sorry, I'll have to catch up to myself here. Yeah. So he and Bodil, they moved to Florida. A few of us got to come and visit. Some of you we've met through them, and others we've certainly heard about or stories about as well. We got to go both to Delray and California, and I think that maybe this sort of meeting there got us to meet Joseph in his home environment as a very adventurous and generous person, always up to something. And he took us on many adventures when we were there. And one of them was down to the Keys, where he let me and my cousin Stian take the boat out by ourselves while he sat down in a bar nearby. And it turns out it's not a good idea to give to 12 or 13-year-olds a boat set out there. And we got towed back by the Coast Guard and delivered back to the bar by good Samaritans there. Of course, Bodil was pissed, and she ended up leaving us on the side of the road with all these instruments. He was going to play, I guess maybe with the Snakeboy Johnson band down in Key West. So we were stranded there, almost in Key West, but not quite. And the only vehicle who could take us down that was available, it's a Sunday, was a stretch limousine. So it was like our first meeting with being, I guess, a rock star, taking a limo to a gig in Key West. It turned out fine. We got to do some roadie work with him in the summers we spent there, me and Stian. Went to the House of Blues. That was a nice experience. We got asked if we were with the band. Of course we weren't, but we said we were anyways. And we got to meet some girls and have our photos with them. And he took us to hang out with them the next day in Disney World. So that was quite the highlight then. One thing sticks out, he's the only man I see mix milk and orange juice. That was a shocking thing for me. I remember going to breakfast at the Green Owl and observe this behavior. That was completely strange to me. I studied in Australia, and he was always there to have good academic discussions and debates. Kind of tirelessly, sparring partner for all kinds of ideas, always with good advice and always with a book recommendation. So it's someone that always will remember as a book person is Joseph, and he spent a lot of his time reading books and sharing the books he wanted to read. So I think he was a man of curiosity and generosity. And if I see a yellow Jeep or hear a bass line or read a good book, I think I'll think of Joseph.
Well, thank you very much, Andres. Really appreciate your participation today. Let's move on to the next is Chi.
Yes. Hi.
Yes.
Hi. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah. Well, when I heard, I was very sad. Very sad. I've known Joseph for almost 20 years. We joined together roughly at the same time at a company called Sama Systems in New York. Several of our colleagues are on this call here today, so I'll probably speak a little bit sort of for them as well. I know they feel the same as I. Joseph just came about as being one of the most intelligent, smartest people. Always had some experience, some knowledge about everything that was going on. He had such a wealth of experience in his own work, his music, and everything. And when we were working together, we worked in a lot of startups and things. Everything was just buzzing at the time. And Joseph and I and another guy called Bland, I'm not sure he's on this call, but we shared a flat in New York. In fact, Jim Lindner is going to make a little talk a little bit later on. We shared Jim Lindner's flat in New York, and we had some wonderful times. We went out in New York. We went to bars, restaurants, and chatted about life and all that kind of stuff. And it was a wonderful time, back in 2007, 2008, I think it was. And we moved on together with, different companies. In fact, we all moved on together with Front Porch Digital, Oracle. And in 2013, Joseph, myself, and Mark Gray, who's also on this call, we started a company together. We formed a company called Archimedia Technology. And we basically started a whole company, and between us, and it was just so fun. It was one of the most brilliant times in my life, and I'm sure Joseph really enjoyed it too. We just did some wonderful stuff together. Being our own bosses, doing our own things for our own company, having employees, and so on, made it a very special thing. And Joseph was just, a major part of that. And that's why we did it together, because we felt that, we had not only the sort of work skills and the experiences together, but we were all sociably connected, and we were all sociably so so good together that we felt we could all rely on each other to be business partners as well as friends. And we just had a lot of fun together in our sort of in our working life as well as our social lives. I played guitar myself, and Joseph and we jammed a lot together. Every time we ever got together, we had if we ever had an instrument or something, he would play his bass, I would play his guitar. We even played drums together and things, and he was a brilliant musician, and we always had fun when we could get jammed together. I've seen him play many times. He used to be part of the SEMPTE, one of these broadcast committee governing bodies. He was a very active member of SMPTE. He played in the SEMPTE band in many of the events that we attended. And he was never short of always intelligent souls, always just full of experience. From just as Andreas just said, he always talked about his time doing the Lillehammer Olympics. I think that was one of his most highlights of his career. I think that really was one of his most memorable achievements, managing and running an operation for the Olympics. And I worked with him throughout the last 20 years, and even to the last year when we were at the show together in NAB in Las Vegas. He was good. He was full of life. He was fun. He never had a bad word to say about anyone. Never
Well,
did.
thank you, Chief, for those thoughts, and appreciate members of his previous his previous associations, the businesses he was working with. It's very nice to hear.
Yeah, he'd been in the
Yeah.
broadcast industry for the last so 30 years or, and he was part of our lives, and we miss him dearly.
Yes. Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So next up, Tuesday, would you like to take the mantle, please?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I wrote something, so I'll just be reading this.
Okay.
I'll be quick. Before I knew Joseph, I knew about the FI-16.
What?
He was just so good to everybody. And I remember in all the talks we had, no matter if it was about an employee or a client, the first thing he always thought about was their family and their finances and how to best take care of them. And I remember in our mentorship, and him as my boss, we spoke, of course, a lot about the EZ-16, and he taught me a lot of technical terms and how to best manage a team. But I think what he really taught me was that being a leader isn't about your own ideas or even what you're working on, but it's about taking care of the people around you and just remembering them for all that they've done for you. And I remember a few weeks before he died, I asked him for advice about one day I do want to become a writer. And his advice to me was that there's many different paths to being an artist. And if it's what I really want, just don't give up, in his words, and to get a good editor. And it just felt so real and honest, beyond any fellowship rhetoric I've heard before. And he didn't try to seem more knowledgeable than he was. He just gave me pragmatic and honest advice. And when I look back, I think the most common motif in our conversation, I know it sounds kind of funny, but it was turtles. And I don't think it was ever spoken between us, but I think we both saw ourselves in those turtles that are scrappy newborns that fight their way into the sea the moment they are born. And if they're lucky enough to survive that first journey, they're faced with the ocean ahead in a soft shell. And Joseph was just so smart and so empathetic. He could live, I think, through times that were hard and through times that were really good. And he just had this rare ability, I think, to find peace in the spaces in between while also uplifting people around him. And even after his sister died, he was still showing up for the team and he was still doing all that he could for the people around him. And I could tell after that happened, he started to think about his own mortality a lot more, but he was never upset. It was more like he was just coming to terms with the gravity of life and the gravity of his life. And I went off script here entirely, but I just really miss him. And I'm just so, so proud of the accomplishments that he made. Just hearing about them and being able to work at Filmic and help with his vision around the EZ and can carry on the work that him and Jim did. It just has been such a meaningful experience to me, and I'm really grateful that I knew him.
Thank you, Tuesday. That was lovely, and it's let everybody know that it's fine to go off script. I had planned my words and funny stories and just felt that I couldn't even get them out there. So let's hear from Lance and Chaddock. I've added you to the list after Keith or Gordon. But Lance, go ahead and take.
Thank you, Jeff. Before I begin, Tuesday, I want you to know that in times, Joseph would often say to me that the greatest thing that I brought to Filmic was you. So thank you for all that you've done. You've been amazing to work with, and I love, love, love the growth that we've been able to see. So thank you, Tuesday. All right. So I have a script. I'm going to try to stay within it because there's a lot within what Joseph was able to share with me. And there's a special announcement at the end. So fare ye well, Joseph. Of all the things you are to me, a mentor, a teacher, a brilliant engineer, and a friend, there is one thing you always made very clear. I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. And yet, despite that disclaimer, we spent countless hours in deep conversations about preservation, access, copyright, and the future of motion pictures. You always reminded me that the work you did was not just for the United States, but for the world's film and video collections. That global perspective was one of your greatest gifts. I think back to the motion picture storage project I worked on for the Ringling Museum and how we brought the FI-16, what would later evolve into the EZ-16. Within moments, you had sketched an extraordinary flowchart showing how the content would be digitized, shared, and stored. You had a gift for turning complexity into clarity, for seeing the system before the rest of us even recognized the parts. I think back to the meetings where you would express intense frustration, sometimes even anger towards me. And then afterwards, you would tell me almost sheepishly that it was because I pushed you outside your comfort zone. In those moments, I learned something profound about how passion and respect can live side by side. I think back to the time I asked you and James Snyder whether engineers ever agreed on anything. You both laughed and told me that engineers often don't even agree with themselves. That answer has stayed with me ever since. I think back to our conversations about music and motion pictures, two art forms you love deeply, and two subjects that allowed your creativity and intellect to shine in equal measure. I think back to our most recent conversations about copyright and fair use, and it is my honor to share with everyone in the meeting today or memorial today that the article I wrote recently for the Journal of Digital Media Management will be dedicated to Joseph. In fact, it was really exciting. I received the editor's notes this morning, which I found kind of ironic, and within the acknowledgement that will be published, it clearly dedicates the article to Joseph. It feels like the smallest tribute to a man whose work shapes so much of how we preserve and understand our audiovisual heritage. Joseph, rest now. Your work has inspired librarians, archivists, and caretakers of audiovisual collections all over the world. But more than that, your friendship, your guidance, and your spirit will remain in my heart for all of my life. Farewell, my friend. You will be deeply missed and always remembered.
Thank you very much, Lance. That was very nice memory. So we'd like to move on to Jim. Are you on the call? Are you on phone or are you on video? Oh, there you are.
I am.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. I'm sure the rest of us
Okay.
can too.
Good. Well, as you can see, I'm in a car, and my wife Emily is here as well. And
I am.
Hi.
it's particularly appropriate because frequently Joseph and I would talk, and I would be somewhere and he would be somewhere. and we would always be looking for cell phone towers to get a good connection. I think all of you know that saying, never do business with family or friends. And Joseph and I did exactly that. We did business as family and as friends, as extended family. And I just like to tell a short story about family and about that. But before that, I want to acknowledge some of the things that have already been said, which is our business association. We did have a business association for over 20 years, but it was more than that. We were spitball buddies, meaning that Joseph was truly my collaborator and would listen to all of my harebrained schemes. And believe me, there were many of them. Some of them, the people on this call know. I can assure you there were many that never saw the light of day, except for Joseph. And Joseph would tirelessly, we'd banter with each other about some harebrained schemes, some of which came to fruition, such as building a software-based scanner. What a stupid idea that was. So I just want to mention the friendship and the family part of it. Talk about harebrained ideas. I went to culinary school, most of you know, at 67 with a bunch of 20 and 30-year-olds. And when I graduated, I had two seats to the graduation, or two seats to the dinner that I prepared. And one went to Emily and one went to Joseph. And Joseph flew in from Florida to New Orleans for that. And that is sort of the lead into my main story, which is to sort of show how family we were. Joseph was in Riga, Latvia, and this is right around this time of year, so it's particularly appropriate. This is right before Thanksgiving, and Joseph was involved with Publica, which is arguably another harebrained scheme that we both got involved in. He got involved in. I passed on that one, and I spoke to him, and at that time, our family had gathered. My family had gathered in Paris, friends and family, and so I spoke to Joseph, and it was a couple of days before Thanksgiving. And I said, Joseph, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm doing Publica. And I'm in Riga, and we're, and I said, okay, what are you doing? He said, well, Publica. And I said, Joseph, I mean, when you have to tell me like 3 paragraphs to explain what Publica is, it's probably not a good idea. Listen to Warren Buffett. If you can't explain it, it's probably not a good business. So, but we went back and forth, and I said, well, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? And of course, in Europe, American Thanksgiving is a nothing. And he said, well, nothing. And I said, well, okay. Get to the airport and fly to Paris. We're having Thanksgiving together. And he said, okay. and he scraped his money together. I'm not sure exactly. Oh no, I wired him a ticket. That's what happened. I paid for a ticket for him. He picked it up at the desk and flew to Paris. And our family had Thanksgiving together in a restaurant called Le Train Bleu. I think Mark, I think you probably know that place. It's one of the nicest restaurants in the world, really. It's in a train station, and that was kind of our relationship. It was harebrained ideas. It was friendship, and it was sharing. It was sharing of each other, sharing of our lives together. And I miss him now, and I don't know what else I can really say. We have
Well,
thank
yeah,
you.
thank you, Jim. Thank you for that memory. I know you guys were close, and the three of us, worked together for a time too, and that was a great experience for all of us. So let's go ahead and move on to my sister, Jill Joyce, who lives in Apex. So, Jill, are you ready to say a few words?
Sorry about that.
That's fine. You just wasted 10 seconds of your time. That's okay.
Good morning, everybody. I am walking the line of thankfulness and mourning with all of you today. The gift of longevity and family is leaning in close today. I've known Joseph as long as Jeff has. But just a brief history of some of my favorite memories with Joseph. The first one is when I was turned 16, he played at my birthday party. It was an outdoor, huge party. I think there were over 100 people there. And they set up a stage and played, and just a very fond memory. I mean, they rocked the neighborhood down. The police actually showed up as well. So there was that.
Not the first time that happened.
No. And then in my early 20s, Joseph and his lovely wife, Amy, invited me to come and live with them in San Francisco. And so actually, that was in Berkeley.
Right. The Arch Street house.
Yes, the Arch Street house. And so they invited me to live there, and it was absolutely beautiful. I have very fond memories, lots of food, lots of music. Jeff mentioned the view of Berkeley and of San Francisco, and of course their award-winning rose garden, which I remember bringing roses into their home all the time. It was wonderful. My last and most fond memory is the most recent of Joseph coming back into my life after many, many years of not seeing him. I'm going to stick to my script because I get emotional. He came back and got to meet my husband and my children and my grandchildren. And we did spend the last 2 Thanksgivings together. Prior to this one, of course. And Joseph was entertaining my kids, who fell in love with him, of course. He always had a guitar or a piano and jokes and etc. Lots and lots of stories to tell. But we did get to celebrate his last birthday here in Apex, North Carolina. And we got a big piece of tiramisu at the Italian restaurant that we were at and put a candle in it and surprised him. And lastly, there were a lot of phone calls after the loss of his sister, and a lot of crying and a lot of just long talks. You know, with Joseph, there are no short talks, right? um, so we were there for it, for sure. And we loved him through it and helped him to just go ahead and mourn through it. And I guess the moral of the story is to hold your family and your friends close, especially this holiday coming up. I do hope you all have a good holiday season with yours. And thank you, Jeff, for all of your hard work through this difficult time for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Let's before we get too weepy again, let's move on to the fun part. Let's talk to Gordon. Gordon, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with Joseph, working with Joseph? And
Do you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you fine.
Is it good?
Yeah,
Hello?
sounds good. Hello.
Hello. This is a lot more exciting than I expected.
Oh, yeah?
Is David Walachinsky still on the line? Hello,
Yeah.
David.
Yeah.
Long time no see. The last time I saw David was when he was nice enough to host my wife and I at their house with Flora in southern France.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was the same time that I flew over with Christina, my first wife, and from Paris, we went down to Auberville to watch Joseph personally manage the amazing technology complex that NBC sets up to do the Olympics. I mean, it's unbelievable what he was doing and managing. He showed me once all he had was a little screwdriver. That's all he needed. Basically, he knew enough and knew everybody and knew what he wanted. I met Joseph same time I met Jeff when they came to the Tattoo Lagoon in San Francisco. I think would that be 1976, Jeff?
77, late 76 was still the Mabuhay, so it was early 77, I think.
Sounds right to me. And also I met Ron Silva the same time, who to this day I'm very close to.
Yeah.
And it was a panic. You guys, Joseph was a great musician, as others have noted. And from my experience there, after a few years, I ended up in a band with Jeff and Joseph called the Hitmakers. And that was quite an experience. What it led to was my connection with a band called the Crawdaddies out of San Diego, who I still play with. I toured with them in Spain last year. I mean, that's how long that connection has been going on. And I'm in the middle of making another record with Ron Silva right now. So that goes back to Joseph. And it's great seeing Jill again.
Yeah, early 80s, the Crawdaddies album, right? I mean, that was produced at the Arch Street house, right?
Yeah, the studio that Joseph built in his house on Arch Street.
Yeah.
I lived at that house as well for quite a while. I took care of the house. I was kind of the house boy. When you and Joseph went over to London without me, I'm not sure why, but you were over there in London having a ball.
Oh, sour grapes, Gordon.
Or when Joseph and Amy would go to Venice every year, as they did, along with his father-in-law, Irving Walachinsky. So let's not forget about all of that. It was about the time that Joseph was splitting up with Amy that he got into some serious tech work, and he was so talented. I mean, if there's one thing I can emphasize as others have, is what a smart guy he was. And he was involved from the get-go in projects I can't even get my head around. I made a living in custom installation, electronics, home stuff, audio, video, so I could relate to that. But he would go, I think one of his first jobs was building a Jumbotron in a park back when Jumbotrons were new, in a stadium somewhere. Do you remember that? And yeah, I don't know how he got into the NBC building the Olympics studio gig, but he did that for quite a few years.
Yeah. Well,
and-
when he was selling the Jumbotron stuff, I had to go clean it with him and his wife. at Candlestick, you know, the big Jumbotron. They rented lifts, and I had to go up to the top with rubber gloves and buckets of soapy water to wash those 4 square-inch little screens across this Jumbotron. It took us like 3 days. I had to get off
Okay,
work because Joseph
so
couldn't find anybody.
Joseph builds the thing and he brings you in with a bucket. I see.
That's
That was
right.
interesting.
Yeah. Sour grapes.
Yeah. Well, not sour, not sour. I'm sure you needed to work. I knew you back then. I'll tell you what, when I, after that meeting at the Tattoo Lagoon, it was I don't know how long it was, a couple of years later, I was available, and I ended up over in Berkeley sitting at a table with you and Joseph and Janice, if I may name a name. And I have never laughed so hard in my life. We would sit there for hours and just laugh and laugh. And you were at the center of all of that, Jeff. So tell you what. Anyway,
Well,
I would
is
like
there
to
any-
thank Joseph for introducing me to the best band I ever played with, and I continue to play with, and for knowing you. Well, no, I met you and Joseph at the same time, so I can't give him that. But quite a few other meetings, and I am. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this.
Thank you, Gordon. We're going to have Chaddock up next. So it's 11:48. We've got Chaddock, then Bob, and then anybody else. Thank you.
Yes, well, thank you, Jamie, for organizing this, and Jeff for hosting this event. I've known Joseph for the better part of 60 years. We met when he was 13, and I was an exchange student from the Netherlands to the United States in 1968. And I lived for a year with the family. And that was a fantastic time. At the time, Joseph was in junior high school, as far as I remember. And he just became my younger brother. And that stayed that way throughout his life. A couple of years later, he came to Holland and spent years at with my parents and my sister Marianne, who's on the call, in Leeuwarden. And he learned to speak Dutch fluently and a lot of other things as well. And since that, he's been just part of the family. And he also spent time with us, with Amy, and later on alone. And well, it's been a continuous experience. And I can only echo the remarks from the previous people that have spoken. And he was a remarkable person, and we all loved him. Our grandchildren or children changed his name from Joseph into Jovis. So Jovis with us is everybody knows who we mean. And finally, I don't want to make this very long. I've talked a lot with Lisa about Joseph's, let's say, problems in the latter part of his life. And it is so incredible that in 1 year, both Lisa, Bodil, and Joseph die. It is it's very difficult to comprehend. And of course, we know that we're all going to die, but still, we miss him, and he's been a great guy and a great brother. The most remarkable thing, and then I'll stop, is that when my wife Marion and I came back from a holiday in Spain with a car, and we, on the spur of the moment, decided to stop to see the Louvre in Paris and see the Mona Lisa. And when we went to the Mona Lisa, we met below the Mona Lisa, we met Joseph and Lisa. And that's a coincidence that is incomprehensible, like so much of his life.
Yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
yes, thank you. Yeah, yeah, I didn't even get to the part when I was talking about how Joseph was just multilingual. He just picked it up very, very easily. So, Bob, did you have a story that you wanted to tell?
Yeah, really quickly. Hi, Bob Berger. I just wanted to say a couple of quick things. I met Joseph when he joined Jim Linder and Chi at Sama Systems with Chi, and I've worked with him for a long time. And I came out of the being a cameraman for television news for CNN and a satellite truck engineer when I started working in this media migration thing. And I knew something about video, and I knew something about uh, management of complicated technical things in difficult places. And Joseph and I really, the thing about doing that sort of thing, whether it's the Olympics or doing live shots in a snowstorm on the side of the road, is that working with other people doing things that objectively suck, like standing in the rain or waiting at an airport for weeks for that thing to get out of customs so you can turn it on at the customer's location or whatever. And the whole key to that is being able to make the people that you're working with think that the thing that sucks is fun. And that applies to live music. I tell you, every single time the WFMU Record Fair comes around in New York City, and for me, that's a big religious holiday. And those of you who know what that is, some of you do, I always let Joseph know after the weekend of the WFMU Record Fair that I hunted for Hitmakers 45s and couldn't find them. Yeah, so I bonded with Joseph about music, but I really appreciated the passion and the excitement and the love of the work, the love of the product, the love of the reason why we're doing this complicated, pain in the ass technical thing for whatever reward personally. But Joseph always appreciated the good that we were doing in the world with the media migration projects, products, and things like that, all from working with Sama through working with Filmic, whatever it was that we ever talked about. He was somebody that I always bonded with over appreciating how lucky we were to, at the end of the day, look at what we've been doing and think about the good that it did in the world. And I love him for being involved with me in a lot of complicated, stressful, awful, hard things to do. But that at the end of the day, the pride that you have about how important that work is or was. And to that end, I just want to mention, I was a couple of weeks ago, I was at some conference and I was talking about something, and I got to say that, some of the most wonderful adventures in my life were things like that, and working with Joseph, specifically organizing and delivering this massive project for the Rwandan Genocide Tribunal in Africa. How ridiculous, robots to Africa. And I love Joseph, and I love my memories of us sending each other pictures of, whatever, eating pizza in weird places in Africa, or talking all the time while we were doing these different projects back and forth, like, oh my God, this sucks. What do I do next? Keeping, him trying to keep, when I was the remote guy, him trying to keep me sane. And he excelled at that. And the reason that he excelled at that was because he was somebody that really believed, as I do, in the importance of what it was that we were privileged enough to do. And I love him and I miss him. And that's
Thank
all
you, Bob. Thank you. We're gonna go to a video that Jamie produced so that we can see a little bit of a photographic memory, and then I think we'll have time for Keith. Keith wanted to say something, and then anybody else in the time remaining.
Florida.
Thank you. It's near the top of the hour, but if anybody has, I know we've got kind of a hard stop. I know Keith wanted to say something a little bit about Joseph's production abilities and in the past. Keith, would you like to say something?
Sure. Yeah. Well, that was a nice video. Yeah, I knew Joseph. Joseph and Jeff were sort of they were kind of the ancestors to the band. I was also in that band, the Crawdaddies, with Gordon. And I really got to know Joseph when I knew the Hitmakers. I saw them before. They were like in the very first generation of independent bands, punk bands, new wave, whatever you want to call it, in San Diego. The very first. Them and the Dills and the Zeros, I think, were the very first ones. And like 76, 77. And, I started playing my band 77, 78. And then the Crawdaddies started stealing members from my band. They stole our guitar player because, but what happened was the Hitmakers had Ron Silva and Steve Potter along with Jeff and Joseph. And then they quit and started this crazy retro R&B band called the Crawdaddies, which is the kind of music I like. So I didn't really know Joseph too much back then, but then in 1984 he generously offered, through his friendship with Gordon, to produce a record for us. And so we all went up to San Francisco, up to Berkeley, in the beautiful house. That's the first time I met Amy, who I would know for many, many years. And Joseph did a good job. I mean, he was tolerating our craziness. He was a very patient dude. He was like in his 20s then, late 20s, but he seemed so adult. He was very, very adult kind of guy. And then after, and what's funny is he had the most expensive synthesizer in the world. This Fairlight Synclavier. It was like $50,000 back when that was a lot of money or something like that. And he used to actually go teach Stevie Wonder how to use it. It was one of his many jobs that you might not know of. He would go personally teach Stevie Wonder how to use this incredibly cutting edge synthesizer in LA. And I'm glad you guys covered the recording of the record and everything a little bit, so I don't have to tell the whole story. But the amazing thing was, after the record, he really tried to help us, which nobody ever really did. He took us around all the record labels in LA, music publishers, and really gave it the college try to help us. But we were, of course, unhelpable. It eventually came out a couple of years later in a form, thanks to Gordon. Another funny story I'd like to tell is when I guess he needed cash at some point or whatever, he would fly down, I think, and work with Gordon and I on Gordon's audio video jobs. And when he was in town, he would borrow Irving Wallace, his father-in-law's. He would borrow his Bentley and show up to do wiring jobs, pull his toolbox out of the back of the Bentley. I remember him rolling up to Henry Mancini's house in like a better car than Henry Mancini. That was pretty funny. Hey, David. Long time no see. I saw David Walshinsky there. It's Irving Wallace, by the way. I don't think Irving ever went native with his slang, with his thing. But anyway, Joseph was a great guy, super smart. It's interesting to hear all these people in his later part of his life. And when his wife died, I sent him a Ray Charles video, "Hard Times," which is, has personal meaning to me. And he sent me a note saying that was funny. I sent him that because the first concert he ever took his wife to, Bodil, was Ray Charles. Ray Charles and Andres Segovia on the same bill. Put that in your brain and smoke it. Wow. Anyway, I'm sitting here in my studio. Joseph knew about recording long before me. This is Al Green's old board behind me. I'm posing with my board like Roger Waters does. Anyway, that's all I have to say. I know you guys are out of time, but
Keith, thank you very much for joining us and letting us know
hey, Gordon,
about some of that stuff. And it's nice to see all the band.
Mm-hmm. Ron Silva, by the way, couldn't make it. He wanted to, but he sends his regards, and he was working this morning.
Yeah. So I guess, Jamie, we'd like to wrap it up now because it's almost 12:05 and Jamie's got a ride ahead of her. So Jamie, would you like to say some final words and give everyone a link that they can share?
Yeah. I just want to express my gratitude to everybody for joining us today and sharing your cherished memories of Joseph. It's really important. We do have a hard cutoff time because we are hosting a private ceremony at 11 o'clock California time in Bird's Landing, where Joseph will be buried next to his sister, Lisa. So we need to stop so my family has enough time to get there. I did share a link in the chat. You can both see the gravesite location, or if you would like to visit, there's a map to it at a later time. There's also a memory page where you can share photos or memories, more places where we can all kind of comfort one another. The recording from today will also be uploaded there at a later time once it's available. So, this has been a wonderful tribute, and I really appreciate everybody showing up. He was such an incredible man, and my family's here today, and I know they want to express their gratitude as well. So thank you so much, and I hope everybody has a great day, and just keep Joseph in your hearts today on his 70th birthday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.